Hey there guys, welcome to the next video here on the channel. I'm going to be working on the duct tape Hunger Games coasters in this video. You saw I made the Mockingjay one here yesterday in the time lapse, so I'm actually going to show you guys how to make them, and we're going to be using the traditional Hunger Games logo for this video here. So let's get started here on the tutorial. Alright, so for our first step, we really have to determine what colors we're going to use. For the Mockingjay one here, I used the electric blue and the white to kind of copy the book cover colors here. I'm going to be using regular yellow as well as black for this one. I could always go with gold, but the gold is going to kind of mess with the solid color ones that I'm going to be making here of all three of the coasters. So the first thing I'm going to do is kind of decide what my background color is going to be. Of course, that's going to be the black for this one. I'm going to cut out 8 strips of tape that are 4 inches long. And that's going to be the width of the coaster here. So I'm going to cut out 8 of these total. Here's my first 3, and then we're going to start sticking them together. So 8 of these. So once I have my 8 strips stuck together, or I'm sorry, not stuck together, once I have all 8 of my strips cut out, I'm going to take my first 2, stick them together on top of each other, just like that. I'm going to take my third one. I'm going to use my coaster that I've already made for this. This has a height of about, it's probably about 3.5 inches long or high. So I'm going to be using my second strip and kind of coming all the way down to the bottom here and sticking those down. That would just give it a little bit of, consistency all the way through my coasters that I'm making here. So there's my first sheet. I'm going to take my 4th strip for this one, and I'm going to stick it together just like that and do any trimming on the sides if I need to. Then I'm going to take my 4 other strips and I'm going to make an exact duplicate of that piece right there. And once I have my 2 sheets, there's really a couple options that you can use to cut them. You can take a ruler and a pair of scissors and trace on with a pen and then cut it from there. I have a pretty sharp hobby knife here, so I'm just going to use that. You're going to take your 1 sheet and we're going to cut it every inch, and since it's 4 inches across, we're going to cut it 3 different times. So I'm going to use my cutting mat and my ruler here and just cut these all the way down vertically. That's my second cut, and lastly my third cut. Scoot those aside, and I'm going to take my second one, and this one's actually going to be a little more difficult because it's not lined up on the inches, so I'm going to cut it directly in the center like this, and then I'm going to move it up and kind of just cut in half this piece here and this piece here. Then I'll have those 4 strips going horizontally. Now there are pieces going horizontally and vertically. Now what you want to do is cut out a strip of tape that's the height here. We're going to cut that in half, and that's what we're going to use to seal these pieces in. So we're going to start with the top, and we're very carefully going to apply these directly on top of each other, just kind of weaving it without typically weaving it at all because there's nothing to be woven in just yet. But we want to line them all up, both horizontally and vertically, just like this. And then once we get it to that point, we're very carefully going to spin it, or if it's going to come apart, we're not going to spin it at all. And we're going to take one of these pieces and seal it down so we have enough room to work with. And make sure you get a little bit of trim there, and then you can stick that on like that. And once you peel the whole thing up, everything should pretty much stay exactly where it is except for these 2 strips in the middle. So I'm going to make sure it's lined up, peel that around towards the back of the coaster, and then that'll be the front. Now we can start weaving these together without it, trying to come apart and everything. So I'm going to weave in these other 3 pieces here. So I'm going to assume you guys probably already know how to weave duct tape. It's really simple, you just go over, under, back and forth, and you kind of repeat that process back and forth until you get it totally woven like this. This just adds, just a little bit of texture to it. And then what we're going to do is take our second piece, make sure it's a good trim on the one side, and then flip the whole thing over, make sure it doesn't fall apart too much, and then wrap it around the back like that. And then you can make sure the trim is good on both sides. Then what we need to do is cut out a second piece. This is of course the length of the bottom here. We're going to cut this piece in half directly like that. I'll put one piece here with a little bit of trim, wrap it around the back, and do the same thing on the top. And then we'll have the weave totally secure in there. Now of course comes the time that we have to cut out the actual logo here. So we're going to go into time-lapse mode, and I'll show you guys exactly how I cut that out nice and quickly, and then we're going to stick it onto the coaster. So here we go. Alright, so there we have it on the Hunger Games coaster that I just made, and of course the one that I made the other day. I'll probably make the middle one catching fire sometime soon. I'll show that to you guys as well. That one's going to be a little more difficult because there's a lot of other different colors in there. But with these two, it's actually fairly simple to just choose two colors and then kind of, rotate them back and forth. And that's how to make, just two cool Hunger Games drink coasters. Hopefully you guys liked the tutorial, and there'll be another tutorial coming tonight as well, so stay tuned for that.